12 black celebrities with the most expensive weddings ever. Love can look beautiful under bright lights, but when fame and money enter the room, even a wedding can become a battlefield. One dress, one guest list, one private island, $1 million mistake can turn romance into legend. On the outside, these stars had everything. Trophies, cameras, mansions, and crowds screaming their names. But behind the flowers and champagne, some marriages were already carrying pressure. Secrets, ego, betrayal, and the silent fear that money could not protect love forever. Today on Black Hollywood Uncut, we're pulling back the curtain on the most expensive black celebrity weddings ever. Stay until the very last second, subscribe to Black Hollywood Uncut, and hit the notification bell, because the final stories reveal twists no luxury ceremony could hide. Michael Jordan, 63 age now. Michael Jordan was never just an athlete. He was a global symbol of dominance, pressure, money, and impossible expectation. By the time he married Cuban-American model Yvette Prieto in 2013, Jordan had already transformed from a basketball legend into a billionaire-level brand, a man whose name could turn sneakers, commercials, and championships into cultural history. So when his wedding became one of the most talked-about celebrity celebrations of the decade, it felt less like a private ceremony and more like the world getting one more glimpse inside the empire of Michael Jordan. The wedding took place on April 27, 2013, in Palm Beach, Florida, with nearly 300 guests watching Jordan and Prieto exchange vows at the Episcopal Church of Bethesda by the Sea. The reception followed at the Bears Club in Jupiter, a luxury golf club connected to the world of wealth, privacy, and power. Reports describe the celebration as massive, elegant, and expensive, with entertainment from major names like Usher, Robin Thicke, DJ McLight, K-John, and an 18-piece band. Some outlets estimated the wedding cost around $10 million, placing it among the most extravagant celebrity weddings ever reported. But what made this wedding fascinating was not only the money, it was the contrast. Jordan had spent his life under lights so bright they could burn through any ordinary privacy. Every championship, every business move, every relationship became part of a public mythology. After his first marriage to Juanita Vinoy ended in 2006, this second wedding carried a different kind of weight. It was not the beginning of a young superstar's fairy tale. It was a powerful man, already tested by fame, stepping into another chapter with someone who lived far away from the chaos of constant headlines. The transcript presents the wedding as almost unreal, filled with endless flowers, luxury cars, priceless wine, and golden details. Some of those details should be treated carefully, unless supported by strong public sources. What can be said with confidence is that Jordan and Prieto's wedding was lavish, star-studded, and symbolic of a life lived at the highest level of fame. Years later, Michael Jordan and Yvette Prieto remain married, raising their twin daughters while keeping most of their private life guarded. And maybe that is the real luxury in Jordan's story. Not the tent, the music, or the price tag, but the ability to protect one quiet corner of life after the whole world has spent decades watching. Tina Turner, die, age 83, in 2023. Tina Turner's wedding to Erwin Bach was not just another celebrity ceremony. It felt like the final, peaceful chapter of a woman who had already survived storms most people could never imagine. By 2013, Tina was more than the queen of rock and roll. She was a symbol of survival, reinvention, and hard-earned freedom. Her voice had filled stadiums, her story had inspired millions, and her name had become connected to power, pain, and triumph. After decades in the spotlight, Tina found a different kind of love with Erwin Bach, a German music executive she met in the 1980s. Their relationship lasted for nearly 3 decades before they married, making the wedding feel less like a sudden fairy tale and more like a quiet victory. In July 2013, they celebrated near Lake Zurich, Switzerland, where Tina had built a calmer life, far from the chaos of American fame. Reports described a Buddhist-style ceremony with around 120 guests, including major names like Oprah Winfrey, David Bowie, Giorgio Armani, Eros Ramazzotti, and Sade. The transcript presents the celebration as a breathtaking display of wealth, with thousands of roses, luxury details, and a setting almost too perfect to believe. Some public reports did describe the villa as decorated with 70,000 pink and yellow roses, while guests were reportedly asked to wear white. But other details, like exact champagne prices, expensive guest gifts, or exaggerated cost estimates, should be handled carefully unless supported by stronger sources. What matters most is not the price tag. It is the emotional weight behind it. Tina Turner had spent much of her life fighting to own her name, her music, her body, and her peace. Her wedding to Erwin Bach represented something deeper than celebrity luxury. It was a woman standing in the sunset of her life, finally surrounded by devotion instead of fear. When Tina passed away in 2023 at age 83, the wedding became even more haunting. It was not just a glamorous memory. It was proof that after pain, there can still be beauty. After survival, there can still be love. And after a life watched by the world, Tina Turner finally had something sacred that belonged to her. Quincy Jones, die, age 91, in 2024. Quincy Jones lived the kind of life that almost feels impossible to measure. He was not only a producer, he was a composer, arranger, band leader, executive, cultural architect, and one of the most powerful black figures in modern music history. From jazz clubs to Hollywood studios, from Frank Sinatra to Michael Jackson, from film scores to global pop domination, Quincy moved through entertainment like a man who understood sound, power, and legacy better than almost anyone around him. His marriage to actress Peggy Lipton became one of the most fascinating unions of 1970s celebrity culture. Peggy was already famous from The Mod Squad, a television series that made her a symbol of cool, beauty, and counterculture style. Quincy, meanwhile, was rising into a rare space where black musical genius was not only respected, but feared, courted, and depended on by the industry. When they married in 1974, their relationship reflected a glamorous world where music, television, race, fame, and Hollywood image all collided. The transcript paints their wedding as a Beverly Hills spectacle filled with superstar guests, expensive flowers, designer fashion, vintage wine, and live jazz. That tone fits the aura around Quincy Jones, because everything about his public life felt larger than ordinary celebrity. But many of the transcript's specific luxury details should be treated carefully. Exact claims about cost, diamonds, rare wines, guest lists, and floral arrangements need stronger sourcing before being repeated as fact. What can be said safely is that Quincy and Peggy were a high-profile entertainment couple whose marriage drew attention because both of them represented different corners of American fame. Their marriage lasted until 1990 and produced two daughters, Kidada Jones and Rashida Jones, who each carried parts of that creative legacy forward. Peggy Lipton passed away in 2019 at age 72, and Quincy Jones died in 2024 at age 91, leaving behind one of the deepest catalogs in American music. Public reports credited him with 28 Grammy Awards and a career that stretched across jazz, soul, pop, film, television, and historic projects like Michael Jackson's Thriller and We Are the World. So the wedding should not be remembered only as a rich man's glamorous moment. It was part of a bigger portrait, a brilliant, complicated, history-making black artist trying to build love inside a life that never stopped moving. And even after the marriage ended, the legacy remained louder than the silence. Jay-Z 56 age, now Jay-Z's wedding to Beyoncé, was never designed to look like a normal celebrity spectacle. That was what made it even more powerful. By 2008, Jay-Z had already moved beyond the image of a rapper chasing fame. He had become a mogul, a businessman, a cultural force, and one of the most influential black artists in modern music. Beyoncé, already a global superstar in her own right, stood beside him as one half of a union that would become almost mythological in entertainment history. Their wedding took place on April 4th, 2008, inside Jay-Z's Tribeca penthouse in New York City. Unlike the giant public weddings that flooded magazines with every detail, this ceremony was private, controlled, and deliberately hidden from the noise of celebrity culture. Only a small circle of family and close friends were reportedly invited. That secrecy became part of the luxury. No red carpet, no public parade, no endless media performance. Just two of the most powerful figures in Black entertainment choosing to protect a moment the world desperately wanted to see. The transcript presents the wedding as a lavish secret ceremony, filled with expensive flowers, rare champagne, designer fashion, and exclusive details. Some of that fits the public image surrounding Jay-Z and Beyoncé, because everything about their world carries the aura of wealth, precision, and symbolism. But many exact claims, such as private helicopters, diamond-covered gowns, and extreme bottle prices, should be handled carefully unless backed by reliable sources. What can be said safely is that the wedding was intimate, elegant, and surrounded by mystery. What makes this story so compelling is that Jay-Z and Beyoncé did not build their marriage around constant public explanation. They built it behind a wall. Later, their relationship would face public scrutiny, especially through music, interviews, and the emotional storytelling of albums like Lemonade and 444. But instead of collapsing under the pressure, they turned pain, silence, forgiveness, and power into art. Years later, their wedding remains unforgettable, not because the public saw everything, but because the public saw almost nothing. In a world where fame usually demands exposure, Jay-Z and Beyoncé made privacy feel like the ultimate luxury. And that may be the most expensive detail of all. Serena Williams, 44 age. Now Serena Williams has spent her entire life turning pressure into greatness. Before her wedding ever became a headline, she had already become one of the most dominant athletes in history. A Black woman who forced the world of tennis to confront power, excellence, race, beauty, motherhood, and criticism all at once. So when Serena married Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian in 2017, it was never going to feel like a small society event. It felt like a celebration of survival, victory, and a woman finally stepping into joy after years of carrying the weight of greatness. The wedding took place on November 16, 2017, at the Contemporary Arts Center in New Orleans. The celebration was widely described as a glamorous, star-filled event with a romantic theme inspired by Beauty and the Beast. Guests reportedly included major names from entertainment, sports, fashion, and business, reflecting the world Serena had built around her. Not just tennis royalty, but cultural royalty. The transcript presents the wedding as a breathtaking display of luxury, with endless flowers, a castle-like atmosphere, expensive champagne, celebrity guests, and live performances. Some of those ideas match the public reports of a highly stylized and expensive celebration, but details such as exact bottle prices, extreme flower counts, or exaggerated descriptions of the venue should be treated carefully, unless supported by strong sources. The safer truth is already powerful enough. Serena's wedding was elegant, theatrical, emotional, and worthy of a woman who had spent decades redefining what a champion could look like. What gave the wedding deeper meaning was timing. Serena had recently given birth to her daughter, Olympia, and had survived serious health complications after childbirth. That context changes the entire emotional weight of the ceremony. It was not just a famous athlete wearing a beautiful gown. It was a woman who had faced pain, fear, and public expectation, standing in front of the people she loved, and choosing a new chapter. Today, Serena and Alexis remain one of the most admired power couples in sports and tech culture. Their wedding was not only about wealth or celebrity, it was about a champion entering a softer arena, where the prize was not a trophy, but family, peace, and a love strong enough to stand beside her legend. Will Smith, 57 age. Now Will Smith's wedding to Jada Pinkett. Smith sits inside one of the most complicated love stories in modern Black Hollywood. By the time they married, Will was already a rare kind of star. A rapper turned sitcom king, then a box office force powerful enough to carry global blockbusters. He had gone from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to Independence Day and Men in Black, building an image that felt bright, funny, confident, and almost untouchable. On December 31st, 1997, Will and Jada married in Baltimore, choosing New Year's Eve for a ceremony that symbolized a new chapter. Public reports have long described the wedding as private, elegant, and guarded. With Jada pregnant at the time, with their first child together, Jaden, the transcript presents the event as a lavish Hollywood spectacle filled with luxury details, famous guests, expensive champagne, designer fashion, and a dramatic venue transformed for celebration. Some of those details may fit the public imagination around their fame, but exact claims about cost, flowers, gifts, and staging should be treated carefully unless supported by strong sourcing. What is safe to say is that the marriage began under intense public fascination. What makes their wedding powerful for this topic is what came after. For years, Will and Jada represented a polished family image. Successful, stylish, spiritual, ambitious, and deeply connected to entertainment culture. But behind that image, their relationship became more layered than the public once understood. Jada later said they had been separated since 2016 while continuing to work through their bond. And their private struggles became public conversation through interviews, media scrutiny, and deeply emotional revelations. That is why this wedding should not be framed only as a failed fairy tale or a scandal headline. It belongs to a larger story about fame, pressure, image, and two people trying to define marriage under a spotlight that never turns off. The transcript's harsher phrases should be softened, because their relationship is still personal, complicated, and publicly evolving. Will Smith's legacy is bigger than controversy. He remains one of the most important black entertainers of his generation. And his wedding to Jada remains haunting because it began with fireworks, promise, and glamour, then slowly became a mirror of what fame can hide behind the brightest smile in Hollywood. Denzel Washington, 71 age, now. Denzel Washington's wedding story does not need fake spectacle to feel powerful. His life already carries the weight of discipline, faith, excellence, and rare longevity in an industry where many love stories collapse under the pressure of fame. By the time Denzel became one of the most respected actors in American cinema, his marriage to Pauletta Washington had already become part of his public identity, not as a loud Hollywood trophy, but as a foundation. Denzel met Pauletta Pearson in the late 1970s while working on the television film Wilma. Their connection grew before the world fully understood what Denzel would become. They married on June 25, 1983, years before he collected Oscars, commanded major films, and became a standard of black excellence on screen. Unlike some celebrity weddings built for cameras, their ceremony has often been remembered as intimate, family-centered, and rooted in commitment. The transcript presents it with added luxury, suggesting expensive details and heavy media attention, but those claims should be handled carefully. Denzel and Pauletta's real story is stronger when it stays grounded. The more cinematic chapter came later. In 1995, after more than a decade of marriage, Denzel and Pauletta renewed their vows in South Africa, with Archbishop Desmond Tutu officiating. That detail matters because it connects their union to something larger than Hollywood glamour. South Africa, faith, history, and black dignity all gave the moment emotional power. It was not simply a rich actor staging a grand event. It was a couple pausing inside the storm of fame to reaffirm what had carried them through. Their marriage has not survived because life was easy. Denzel has spoken in different interviews about the importance of sacrifice, family, faith, and listening. Pauletta, an actress and musician herself, stood beside him through rising fame, long work schedules, public attention, and the quiet burdens that come with being married to a man the world thinks it owns. That is why Denzel's place in this wedding list should be handled with respect. The transcript may try to make the story about money, private jets, and luxury, but the real hook is deeper. Denzel and Pauletta represent something rare in Black Hollywood, a love story that did not need constant noise to become legendary. Their wedding was the beginning. Their endurance became the headline. Harry Belafonte died aged 96 in 2023. Harry Belafonte's wedding to Pamela Frank belongs to a very different kind of celebrity love story. It was not the wedding of a young star chasing headlines, or a rising entertainer trying to prove his place in the industry. By the time Belafonte married Pamela in 2008, he was already a living monument, the king of Calypso, a groundbreaking actor, and one of the most respected civil rights voices America had ever produced. He had spent decades using fame not just to entertain, but to confront injustice. Belafonte's legacy was already enormous. His 1956 album Calypso helped bring Caribbean music into the global mainstream, and songs like Deo became part of American cultural memory. But behind the music was a man who stood beside Martin Luther King Jr., supported the civil rights movement, challenged political power, and refused to let celebrity silence his conscience. Public records show that he married photographer Pamela Frank in 2008, his third marriage, after earlier marriages to Marguerite Byrd and Julie Robinson. The transcript presents the wedding as a $1 million New York spectacle, filled with luxury hotel details, elite guests, flowers, rare wine, music, gifts, and a grand atmosphere. That dramatic framing fits the aura of Belafonte's status, but the exact luxury claims should be treated carefully. There is strong public support for the marriage itself, but not every expensive detail in the transcript is clearly verified. A safer remake should describe the ceremony as private, meaningful, and high-profile, rather than pretending every number and object is confirmed fact. What makes this story powerful is not the price tag. It is the timing. Belafonte married Pamela late in life, after decades of public service, artistic achievement, personal changes, and political battles. Their marriage represented companionship in the final chapter of a man who had already given so much of himself to the world. When Harry Belafonte died in 2023 at age 96, Pamela Frank remained part of that last chapter. And his wedding story became less about extravagance and more about dignity, a reminder that even legends, after a lifetime of fighting, still search for peace, loyalty, and someone to stand beside them when the spotlight grows quiet. Eddie Murphy, 65 age. Now Eddie Murphy's wedding to Nicole Mitchell was pure 1990s Hollywood spectacle. Big, glamorous, expensive, and impossible to ignore. By 1993, Murphy was not just a comedian. He was one of the most powerful black entertainers in the world, a rare force who had conquered stand-up, television, and film before most stars even found their rhythm. From Saturday Night Live to Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America, Eddie Murphy had become a box office weapon, with a smile, a voice, and a timing that changed American comedy. On March 18, 1993, Murphy married model Nicole Mitchell at the Plaza Hotel in New York City. Public reports described the wedding as lavish, with around 500 guests, including major names from entertainment, sports, and business. The Los Angeles Times reported guests such as Quincy Jones, Arsenio Hall, Robert Townsend, Stevie Wonder, Queen Latifah, Sugar Ray Leonard, and others, showing just how deeply Murphy's fame reached across Black Hollywood and mainstream celebrity culture. The transcript turns the wedding into a near-mythic display of excess, with luxury flowers, expensive wine, gold statues, designer clothing, and a price tag of several $1 million. Some sources have described the ceremony as costing around $1.5 million, which was already a stunning figure for the time. But details like black roses from Ecuador, unlimited rare wine, and heavy gold guest gifts should be treated carefully unless supported by reliable reporting. The real story is already extravagant, without needing every cinematic detail. What makes Eddie and Nicole's wedding so compelling is the contrast between the glamorous beginning and the complicated ending. They had 5 children together, and their marriage lasted for years before ending in divorce. Public reports show Murphy's personal life later remained heavily followed, including other relationships, and his eventual marriage to Paige Butcher in 2024. Still, this wedding should not be reduced to failure. It captured Eddie Murphy at a peak moment, when black comedy, Hollywood money, and celebrity culture collided under one glittering roof. The marriage did not last forever, but the image remains. Eddie Murphy, at the height of his power, turning a wedding into a headline that 1990s Hollywood could not stop watching. Magic Johnson, 66. Age now. Magic Johnson's wedding to Cookie Johnson carries a weight that goes far beyond celebrity luxury. By 1991, Magic was not just a basketball player. He was joy in motion, the smiling face of the Showtime Lakers, a 5-time NBA champion, and one of the most beloved black athletes America had ever seen. His fame was bright, clean, charismatic, and almost untouchable. So when he married his college sweetheart, Erletha Cookie Johnson, the moment felt like a perfect golden chapter. Magic and Cookie met at Michigan State University in the late 1970s, long before his name became a global brand. Their relationship moved through breakups, distance, fame, and pressure before they married on September 14th, 1991, in Lansing, Michigan. Public reports confirm that the wedding came only weeks before Magic announced his HIV diagnosis to the world, a revelation that changed his life, his marriage, and the conversation around HIV/AIDS forever. The transcript presents their wedding as a multi-million-dollar spectacle filled with flowers, luxury vehicles, designer clothing, priceless champagne, and elite guests. Some of that language fits the mythic aura around Magic Johnson in the early 1990s. But the exact numbers and luxury claims should be treated carefully unless supported by strong reporting. The safer truth is already dramatic enough. This was a high-profile union between a sports icon and the woman who would soon stand beside him during one of the most frightening public moments of his life. What makes this wedding unforgettable is what followed. Magic's diagnosis arrived at a time when fear, misinformation, and stigma around HIV were overwhelming. Cookie was pregnant with their son, EJ, and the future suddenly looked uncertain. But instead of walking away, she stayed. Magic later credited her support as one of the forces that helped him face the world and keep living with purpose. Decades later, Magic and Cookie remain married, raising a family, building businesses, supporting philanthropy, and turning a terrifying chapter into a story of endurance. Their wedding may have been glamorous, but its true power came after the flowers faded. It became the beginning of a partnership tested by fear, protected by faith, and remembered as one of the strongest love stories in black sports history. Russell Simmons, 68, age, no. Russell Simmons' wedding to Kimora Lee. Simmons sits at the center of a very specific moment in black entertainment history, when hip-hop, fashion, money, and celebrity culture were exploding into a new empire. By the late 1990s, Russell was already a defining figure in the music business. As a co-founder of Def Jam Recordings, he helped push hip-hop from the margins into the mainstream, shaping the careers, sound, and business language of a generation. Kimora Lee Simmons brought a different kind of power to the story. She was a model, fashion personality, and later a major force behind Baby Phat, a brand that became deeply connected to early 2000s glamour, confidence, and urban luxury. Their marriage on December 20th, 1998, became more than a personal union. It symbolized the merging of hip-hop wealth and high-fashion visibility at a time when black celebrity culture was rewriting the rules of style. The transcript presents their wedding as a beachside spectacle filled with private jets, tropical flowers, expensive wine, designer looks, and gold-plated gifts. That kind of imagery fits the public mood around Russell and Kimora during their peak. Bold, rich, fashion-forward, and impossible to ignore. But many exact luxury details in the transcript should be treated carefully. What is publicly supported is that they married in 1998, later separated in 2006, Chimera filed for divorce in 2008, and the divorce was finalized the following year. They share two daughters, Ming Lee and Aoki Lee. This story also needs careful handling because Russell Simmons' public image has become more complicated over time. Multiple allegations and family tensions have been publicly reported, while Simmons has denied misconduct allegations. Those issues should not be used carelessly in a wedding segment, and they should never be turned into sensational claims without context. A safer remake can say that the public story around Russell later became more complicated, while keeping the focus on the marriage, the image, and the cultural moment. The wedding did not lead to a lasting marriage, but it captured an era. Russell and Kimura represented ambition, luxury, and the belief that hip-hop could sit at the center of American wealth. Their ceremony was remembered not just as a wedding, but as a snapshot of a time when black celebrity power was becoming louder, shinier, and impossible for the world to ignore. Lawrence Fishburne, 64 age now. Lawrence Fishburne's wedding to Gina Torres had the elegance of two serious performers stepping into a private chapter under a very public sky. Unlike some celebrity marriages built mostly on tabloid energy, this one carried a quieter kind of prestige. Fishburne was already respected as one of the most commanding actors of his generation, a performer whose presence could make a room feel heavier the moment he entered it. From Boys and the Hood to What's Love Got to Do with It and The Matrix, he had built a career on intensity, intelligence, and control. Gina Torres brought her own strength to the marriage. She was not simply the actress beside him. She had a sharp screen presence, a distinctive voice, and the kind of authority that made her memorable in roles across television and film. Together, they looked like a power couple built on craft rather than noise. Two black performers with elegance, discipline, and a deep connection to the dramatic arts. The transcript presents their wedding as a cinematic event at the Cloisters in New York, complete with helicopters, orchids, a glass-roofed tent, expensive champagne, orchestral music, and luxury gifts. Some of those details are highly theatrical and should be treated as dramatized unless verified by reliable public sources. What can be said safely is that Fishburne and Torres married in 2002, welcomed their daughter Delilah in 2007, and later separated after years together. Their divorce was finalized in 2018, and public reporting has emphasized that they continued to co-parent their daughter with care. That is where the emotional truth of this wedding lives. It was not just about flowers or a dramatic venue. It was about two artists trying to build a family while carrying careers that demanded travel, pressure, long hours, and public attention. The transcript's blockbuster language fits Fishburne's screen image. But the real story is more human than cinematic. Their marriage ended, but it should not be framed as failure alone. It produced a daughter, years of partnership, and a chapter in Black Hollywood where dignity mattered more than spectacle. Lawrence Fishburne's wedding story reminds viewers that even the most composed stars still face the same fragile question as everyone else. Can love survive the life that fame builds around it? Behind every million-dollar wedding, there was more than beauty. There was pressure, image, expectation, and the silent weight of being watched by the world. These stars smiled beneath flowers, diamonds, cameras, and champagne. But even the most breathtaking ceremony could not protect every marriage from distance, scandal, heartbreak, or time. Still, their stories should not be reduced to broken vows or expensive headlines. These icons built empires in music, sports, film, and black culture. Whether their marriages lasted forever or faded under the spotlight, their influence remains powerful, their love stories remain unforgettable, and their legacy still echoes far beyond the wedding aisle. So which wedding shocked you the most? And which couple do you believe had the strongest love behind the luxury? Drop your thoughts below, like this video, Subscribe to Black Hollywood Uncut and hit the notification bell for more unvarnished stories.